Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of Golden Era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge, India's first comprehensive environment program. From this week and every week hence, we will bring you half an hour of in-depth reporting on the state of India's environment. From analysis of things gone wrong, to assessment of eco-friendly technologies, to appraisal of successful conservation efforts in India and abroad, Living on the Edge will attempt to simplify complex environmental problems that affect our everyday lives. And to begin with, we've put together a program with all the elements we hope to establish as our own. We report on the overuse that is destroying India's lakes, show how there is a way to free carriers of night soil from their demeaning work, analyze the benefits of mud brick housing, and travel to Texas to study the conservation of bats. But we begin with one of the most important indicators of environmental degradation, lakes. Not only are they a vital part of the ecosystem sustaining birds and aquatic life, but they also support thousands of fishermen. Yet of late, there is a growing realization that India's lakes, whether in cities or elsewhere, are dying. Gauri Maini presents this case study of Pulicat Lake outside Madras. Though it's not representative of all lakes across the country, it reveals a worrying trend.
Up to 3 decades ago, this beautiful lagoon supported a rich and varied ecosystem. Not only did a large community eke out an existence by fishing in this water, but the lake was also a rich source of biodiversity. But now, within the span of a few years, this shallow saltwater lake is being increasingly degraded and may well be on its way to its ecological death. This is evident in the shrinkage of its surface area as well as its depth, and perhaps the strongest indication of excessive human interference is the level of siltation in the lagoon, caused by extensive deforestation. This is rapidly destroying the aquatic life.
The silt buries all oyster beds, all algae, so that the habitat of all these fisheries is lost altogether.
As a result, tiger prawns, crabs and threadfish are now seen only sporadically in greatly reduced numbers, revealing that the lake is carrying only 1/10 of its capacity of seafood.
We are at the mouth of the Pulicat Lake. Behind me is the sea. During the summer months, there's heavy siltation here, as a result of which the bar mouth gets blocked. Fish movement from the sea to the lake is completely blocked, and more than 50,000 fishermen are left to starve.
Bar mouth closure puts an end to the exchange of water, nutrients and oxygen. Millions of fish die as a consequence. Ironically, at a time when the catch is decreasing, more and more people are getting involved in fishing, driven by motives of commercial gain.
With the lure for prawn export, which is almost like gold today, non-fishermen also are trying to fish in the lake, increasing the pressure. Apart from that, the fishing population also has increased, and correspondingly, the fisheries has not increased, the magnitude of the fisheries.
10,000 பேர் இப்போ அந்த காலத்தில் வந்து ஒரு 1,500 பேர் இருப்பாங்க. இப்போ 10,000 பேர் ஆகிட்டோம். இந்த 10,000 பேருக்கு வந்து அந்த மீன் வர்ற மீன் தான் வருது. அதுக்கு மேலே கொண்டு வர ரொம்ப கம்மியாயிடுது. 10,000 பேர் நாங்கள் பொழைக்கிற ஜீவனம் ரொம்ப கஷ்டமாக இருக்குது.
Added to this is the presence of scores of prawn purchasing centers in Pulicat. Traditional fishermen fear that the influx of capital will transform this sleepy village, and that the new fishermen will overlook the rules of fishing for their commercial gain.
இந்த மீன் பிடிக்கிற தொழிலை ஒரு பாரம்பரிய மீனவன் செய்கிறான் அப்படின்னு சொன்னால் எந்த இடத்துல எப்போ என்ன வகையான மீன் கிடைக்குங்கிறது தெரியும். ஆனால் இதை விட்டுட்டு மற்றவங்க யார் வேணாலும் பிடிச்சிக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு வந்து அவங்க காசுக்காக எதை வேணாலும் எப்போ வேணாலும் செய்வோம். அப்படி வரும்பொழுது அந்த மீனுடைய மூமெண்ட் இதெல்லாம் வந்து தடுக்கப்படும். அதன் மூலமாக வந்து அந்த மீன்கள் வந்து பல்வேறு இடங்களுக்கு வெளியேற செய்யும். மைக்ரேஷன் மேபி டேக்ஸ் பிளேஸ்.
And this is what seems to be happening. Traditional fishing practices, though comparatively primitive, were environment-friendly. Fishing was self-regulatory and even avoided on certain days by the community itself. But commercial considerations override such regulations, and now fishing has actually become destructive to the ecosystem.
When I say destructive methods of fishing, destructive types of nets which have got a very small mesh size, where they'll capture young ones also, instead of capturing only the adult marketable ones. And also they use monofilament, where the prawns cannot see, and many more will be captured. Apart from that, these prawns are bottom living, and they have lead weights for the net, so that when the nets are dragged, the whole bottom of the lake is dragged, so that ecologically the bottom of the lake for prawns is destroyed permanently.
Damage to aquatic life apart, there is another element that has further compounded the problem. A government rehabilitation program has relocated 13 fishing villages from elsewhere at Pulicat. This means that the lake must now support the old fishing community, a trading population, and an entirely new set of villagers to boot. Not surprisingly, the original inhabitants sought to resist the intrusion of the newcomers in a battle that claimed 9 lives. And what makes all this even more poignant is that those rehabilitated at Pulicat claim that they were moved from Sriharikota against their wishes.
Sriharikota விட்டு நீங்க போலன்னா நான் குண்டு வச்சு சாவச்சிடுவோம். நீங்க சீக்கிரம் கிளம்பி போய்டுங்க ன்னு சொன்னாங்க. அதனால தான் நாங்க சீக்கிரம் கிளம்பி வந்துட்டோம்.
பொம்பளைங்க சம்பாரிச்சா ஆம்பளைங்க வீட்ல குஞ்சு சாப்பிடுறாங்க. நாங்கள் போய் சம்பாரிச்சாதான் பாம்பளைங்க சாப்பிட முடியும், இல்லைன்னா கிடையாது. இன்னும் அதுவும் இல்லாத குழந்தைங்களுக்கு படிக்க வைக்கும் பணம் இல்லை எங்கள் கையில். நாங்கள் வேறு ஏழைப்பட்டுங்க, நாங்கள் துண்ணது கூட சோறு இல்லாத அவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்படுறோம் நாங்கள்.
As a result, the struggle of a large number of people for scarce resources has not only caused the ecological problems but has worsened them. The pressure on the lake is virtually incessant, and this has prompted independent analysts to offer their own solutions.
If all the lake fishermen, about 30,000 people living in 52 villages, can be organized into a cooperative and call this as the People's Lake, where they do ranching on the lake. That means they capture young ones either in the wild state, or they produce young ones in hatcheries and stock it into the lake. These young ones will grow into larger prawns, and then harvesting can be done on a community base, and it's like a common property resource. The lake can be utilized by all the fishermen, and they could get a much better income, avoiding all the exploitation by the middlemen and exporters and all these people.
Unless the villagers can be convinced of the need to evolve cooperative fishing, it won't be long before the lake turns into a virtual mud bank devoid of any aquatic life. At present, the fisherman is suspicious of any moves that threaten his age-old techniques, but even he is now aware of the dangers of the status quo.
இந்த ஏரி தான் சார் எங்களுக்கு தாய் மாதிரி, எங்களுக்கு கடவுளும் மாதிரி தான் இந்த ஏரி. இது விட்டால் எங்களுக்கு வேறு வழியும் கிடையாது.
Still to come, freeing scavengers from their age-old occupation, the benefits of mud brick housing, and bat conservation in Texas. For centuries, they've been assigned the hereditary task of clearing and carrying night soil. Referred to by different names, scavengers are an integral part of both rural and urban India, performing a task most communities consider demeaning. But some of that may be changing, freeing scavengers for other occupations. Priya Somaya reports on a revolutionary new concept of sanitation.
हम गंदा काम करते हैं और फिर उठाते हैं और सिर पर ले 20-25 घर करते हैं और करते जाएं और चलते जाएं आगे बढ़ते जाएं वैसे जो काम है वही काम करते सिर पर ले बोझा उठा रहे हैं और फिर जाएं आगे हम फिर कमाने लग जाते हैं।
तो ये काम करने में घिन नहीं आती है क्या?
घिन आती है तो करते रहे, आदत पड़ गया, कर रहे हैं अपना।
कब से कर रही हैं?
बच्चा से कर रहे हैं, समझे ना।
Mohini is only one of the over 600,000 people who belong to this particular caste of sweepers. For centuries, they have been forced to clean toilets and carry night soil. The work is considered so degrading that even today, with education and changed attitudes, no one belonging to any other caste will do this work, however desperate their situation. In fact, surveys have shown that barring exceptions, most sweepers belong only to this community. They are treated as virtual outcasts.
तो ये छुआछूत लोग करते हैं क्या?
कौन लोग?
कोई लोग करते हैं?
करता है, दूर रहता है, कमाते तो दूर चल जाता है, हट जाता है और क्या करता है, सब अपना दूर हट जाता, मार्क लगता है।
If social practice and discrimination has been the reason for their depressed condition over the years, their plight today is only marginally better. Given our population, the fact that no other community enters this profession, and the lack of amenities, Mohini and others like her are simply overburdened. This is born out of recent estimates of a population of 900 million, about 700 million defecate in the open or use dry toilets, while in villages people continue to use the fields. City dwellers are forced outside by population pressure and the lack of facilities. And so ironically, the work of the scavenger seems to have become even more important.
झाड़ू पर पहले झाड़ू पर डालक मीठापुर वहाँ से बदल के टटी पर डालक टटी पर से बदल के फिर झाड़ुए पर डालक कोई ना पूछता राम चादरा से मांगे ला जाते को रुपया दे किन के कुछ खाए तो ना दे।
A practice that has persisted for so long cannot be discarded easily, especially when alternatives are not available. But some of that may be changing. If Dr. Patak and his team have their way, the spread of Sulabh Sauchalayas could provide a viable alternative to the use of open space.
I have developed a technology based on researches done in India and abroad that requires little water to flush. It is less costly and it is on-site disposal system. So when you have Sulabh Sauchalaya, you don't require the sewage system or septic tank system. That is very important, and the most important thing that it does not require manual handling. I mean, scavengers are not required to clean. Anybody can clean it because the excreta gets converted into manual.
The Sulabh experiment began in 1973 when Sulabh offered to build communal toilets for the Bihar government near the Gandhi Maidan. That was a virtual open toilet. From that modest beginning, Sulabh has been able to set up over 300,000 toilets across India.
उस समय में हम लोग रोड साइड में जहीं तहीं रिक्शा चालक जो है रोड साइड में जहीं तहीं रिक्शा लगाकर मतलब रोड साइड में अपना लैट्रिन करता था। और जब से इस शौचालय हुआ है तब से शौचालय बनने पर मतलब कि रिक्शा चालकों का मतलब कि यहाँ पर माने की सुविधा बहुत हो गया है।
Not only are the toilets sanitized, but they have been designed so that they can be cleaned easily.
उल्टी होता था सर, पहले माथा पर हाथ से लेके माथा पर फेंकने पड़ता था, अब तो बाल्टी में लेते हैं पानी, झाड़ू से बहा देते हैं। सुलभ से यही हम लोग की सुविधा है।
Perhaps the most significant result of the introduction of Sulabh has been the fact that many scavenger families have been freed from their demeaning work.
घिना भी टाइप का लगता था, मैला वाला काम, आदमी हाथ में मैला वाला लग जाता था। अभी तो वो सब नहीं है, अभी तो झाड़ू का सफाई वाला काम है, झाड़ू लगा दिए तो कोई गंदगी काम उतना हुआ नहीं। ये सब परिवर्तन हुआ है।
Yet, despite the initial success of the toilets, the obvious question that would come to mind is how Sulabh could be a viable alternative, considering that only 200 towns of a total of 3,000 have modern sewage disposal systems, and in the villages, the reality is obvious. To a layperson, it would seem that building toilets would require an elaborate system of underground pipes and disposal facilities provided by city municipalities. But Sulabh has in fact evolved designs that do not require such elaborate systems. Now, cost-effective toilets can be constructed with collection pits. These have the advantage of not requiring manual cleaning, and human waste, decomposed over time, can also be used as manure. This has been done with considerable success in China.
The subtle sludge can be used as manure, but there is a major limitation that it contains a lot of bacterial pathogens. But fortunately, most of the pathogens are aerobic in nature, and during digestion, most of them get eliminated. It has a good mineral value. It contains good potassium. It has a good percentage of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate.
But there is yet another silver lining. Sulabh has shown that it is possible to recover methane gas from human excreta. Biogas plants next to toilet complexes can be used to light up streets and houses. Necessity, it is said, is the mother of invention. Fired by the zeal to uplift scavengers, Sulabh gradually evolved into an organization offering alternative methods of waste disposal. And if Dr. Pathak's ideas are as practicable as he is enthusiastic, then the large-scale adoption of his designs can only be a matter of time.
Still to come, the benefits of mud brick housing and bat conservation in Texas. By the end of this century, over 1 billion people will be added to our planet. We will have to sustain new lives with the same ecosystems from which we draw our food, energy and other resources today. Sustainable development is perhaps the only way out. And that's where new and eco-friendly technologies come in. Technologies that are non-depleting, environment-friendly and easy to use. And one such innovation is that of mud bricks. Not only are they easy to make and cheaper than the conventional ones, but they also don't require the wood of precious trees to fire kilns. Sunil Manoharan reports.
Do you know that for each of these impressive high-rise buildings that dot the Indian cityscape, thousands of trees have to be chopped? And the energy used to fire the bricks used in construction is provided by precious trees. Contrast with this structure built by Development Alternatives, a non-governmental organization. Too simple, almost punitive you might say. But what distinguishes it from the conventional urban structure is that not a single tree was used in its construction. The bricks used by Development Alternatives are called stabilized mud blocks.
Well, the biggest difference between a mud brick and an ordinary fired brick is that you're not firing mud bricks. They are sun-dried. So all of the energy that you use in producing these bricks is either human or solar. Whereas for the conventional burnt brick, you have to use wood or coal to fire the bricks.
But mud bricks have other advantages too. A mud brick costs only 30 paise against the more expensive burnt bricks that cost anything between a rupee and 50 paise.
It depends on what kind of mud brick you're making. For simple uses, say 1 or 2 floor construction in which you're plastering the walls, you can use an unstabilized mud brick, which in Delhi now costs about 30 to 35 paisa. And if you want to do more elaborate structures, if you want to build higher or if you want to leave your walls exposed, then you can stabilize your mud block with 4 or 5% cement, which brings its cost to about 85 paisa or so.
Yet another advantage is the simple production technique. This machine, the Balram press, is all that is needed to make mud blocks. All you need is ordinary mud, which is mixed with a little Badarpur sand, water, and if needed, cement. Vigorous mixing precedes placement in the Balram press. What emerges is the finished product, which only needs to be sun-dried before construction begins on the house of your choice.
Another thing about compressed earth block technology is that it's very, very good for local economies. I mean, for every rupee that you spend on a fired brick, very little of it stays within the village. Whereas if you're spending a rupee on compressed earth block technology, you employ local people, you're using local materials. So a much higher proportion of the expenditure or the outlay stays within the local economy, and that's very good in development terms.
But despite all its advantages, a critical question needs to be answered. Are all varieties of soil suitable for the making of these bricks? The ideal soil is one that is both clayey and sandy. That includes the whole of the Gangetic Plain, parts of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and the northeast. Although mud brick technology is both revolutionary and commercially viable, only a few centers are promoting it at present. Apart from development alternatives, Auroville near Pondicherry and the Indian Institute of Science are practicing with it. Perhaps the real challenge lies in creating a market for the cheaper, eco-friendly bricks and spreading awareness about them. Until that happens, the Balram press will remain a mere technological construct and saving of precious trees a dream.
The real advantage is that compressed earth block technology is good for people and it's good for trees. You employ people, which is very important in India. You use a technology that people can understand. It's simple, it's something they can do themselves. And of course you don't chop trees, which you would otherwise burn to make fired bricks. And basically that's what we're talking about. We're talking about development and we're talking about the environment.
Although bats destroy large numbers of harmful insects each night, reducing the need for chemical pesticides, they are still one of nature's least understood species and face possible extinction. But Bats Conservation International, an organization based in Texas in the United States, hopes to correct the balance and spread awareness about the animal. Here is a report.
Bats are one of nature's most misunderstood and feared creatures. The truth is, bats are among wildlife's most gentle and beneficial animals. In the US state of Texas, Dr. Merlin Turtle heads Bats Conservation International, the worldwide leader in bat research.
Bats in reality are among the least likely to ever harm anybody and the most likely to play significant positive roles not only in our agriculture but right in our yards.
Nearly 40% of bats found in the US are endangered. The survival of bats has a global impact as well. The animal accounts for 99% of the seed dispersal that makes rainforests grow. They also play a key role in the tequila industry for pollinating the agave flower.
The future for bats, the ecology, and for many economies that depend on them is really quite bleak.
Another environmental benefit is that bat colonies eat tons of insects in the night. That's a large number of bugs that would need to be killed by chemical pesticides, which can run off into a city's water supply. Dr. Turtle hopes that his research will dispel age-old myths about this endangered animal.